Right. Here we go. Hello. Let's make sure our stream's working. Right. Here we go. Get a cough out of the way before I go public. Here we go. Right. Rightio, as they say in France. I don't know. But here we are. Hello, everybody. I have got, I think, the stream set up now. So yeah, we are supposedly about 7 minutes away from when we're expecting the FIA to reveal a document. They'll be revealing a very special document that will supposedly be the outcome of this budget cap penalty. It will be what Red Bull and Aston Martin's penalty is. So, hello, Elvin. First one. Hello. How are you doing? Good to have you back. Hey, mate. How are you? All good. I hope you're well. Alexander Boris de Pfeffel Johnson. I hear you're out of work these days. Hello. Hello, everyone. How are you all doing? I hope you're all having a brilliant Friday as we build up to the Mexican Grand Prix, but supposedly in just a few minutes we have the budget cap penalty outcome. So, well, this could be quite a long live stream, I think, because obviously we'll hear the outcome, but then Red Bull have a press conference in just over 2 hours' time, so we'll also probably cover that as well. Hello, Dom, Lindley as well. Hi, hello, how are you doing? Hope you're alright. From reliable source, 10% less air tunnel and 7 million fine, and that's pretty I think that's what it's probably going to end up being, so whether that is a reliable source or not, I think you're probably going to end up being right. Bojo doesn't need to work anymore, I think. No, exactly. Have a lot of free time to party, that's good to hear. A few minutes, yep, supposedly, according to Motorsport Italy from this morning. So, it might not be immediate, it might not be, we don't know, basically. It could be anything. But it will definitely be before Red Bull's press conference in just over 2 hours' time. So, no matter what, in this stream, we will find out all of it, we will find out. Deduction of championship points is off the table. Yeah, I think so as well. From everything that we've seen so far, and the fact that Red Bull have actually agreed to it, rather than deciding to take it much further. Obviously, there has been quite a lot of debate with it. Red Bull have definitely had a lot of back and forth with the FIA trying to negotiate, because it wouldn't have taken this long otherwise. It just simply wouldn't have taken this long. Hello, Rian, how are you doing? I agree. I think deduction of championship points is very much off the table. I don't think that's a penalty that we will be seeing. It could be quite controversial. Twitter might not be the greatest place after that one. Hello, mate. Hello, Sadesh. How are you doing? So I'm going to swap to the RaceBeacon feed one here. So, Mighty Gaming, hello, how are you doing? 10% window time off is a disgrace. I think it's too little. That when the 25% rumour came out, I was like, you know what? That's probably fair enough, because that's a big deduction in wind tunnel time, 25% of your wind tunnel time gone. That's not a small penalty. That will impact you as you go further into the season. Toto versus Horner in today's press would be the best bit of action that we could have seen after Abu Dhabi 2021. Yeah, probably. It has to be somewhat severe. Yeah, I agree. Because to me, it doesn't matter how Red Bull broke the penalty. I don't care. I really don't care. It's because again, I don't care what team it is. I don't care how they break it. It should be a bit like football. You're either onside or you're offside with that rule. I've used that a couple of times in the last few months, so all this has been going on. There should be penalties to avoid it, even if it's unlucky that you've gone over, it should still be a harsh penalty. You've still spent more money than, the other teams, and it goes against the rules, so it'll be interesting. They have Adrian Newey, they don't need a wind tunnel. I know, his mind is a wind tunnel. Adrian Newey's mind is all that they need. Mate, repeat after me. I have a massive pin, oh god. You either overspent or you don't. Yeah, exactly. I think because of the rule change between the moment that everyone told their finances months ago, means there will be almost no penalty. Yeah, and again, I think, I have sympathy for Red Bull and how they've broken the penalty, supposedly, from what they say. But again, for me, that doesn't really change it too much. You do either overspend or you don't, you know. I can have sympathy for them doing it, but I still think it sets a bad precedent. Unless the FIA come out today and say, oh yeah, you know, we know this doesn't set a great precedent, but in the future we will 100% enforce it more aggressively. I think we could see something like that today. That really wouldn't surprise me if we get something along those lines. I hope we don't. I hope we get, you know, a reasonable penalty that will stop teams, because I don't want to go through this every year. You know, when we get to October time, every single season, I don't want to have a repeat of this. So I just, you know, there needs to be a penalty that's going to stop this being a problem again. Because I'm going to be honest, I've got incredibly bored of this story dragging on, the negotiating between the FIA and the teams. It needs to be so much quicker. I think probably even earlier in the season as well. It needs, you know, the actual audit process needs to be a lot quicker. It's been a bit of a mess, and it's been a long-running mess as well. Just wait and watch until Toto spends 500 mil on Roscoe's food. Exactly, they hire Roscoe to the team. So no, he's not a performance engineer. We just feed him loads of food. Oh god, put it on the accounts as dog food. Actually, if they start feeding the team dog food, they could say it's for Roscoe, and then it wouldn't count. So yeah, there you go. Yeah. Mercedes Finance, guys, if you're listening, there's an idea for you. Just a minute, I think. Yeah, we think so. We think so. Obviously, I'll change the countdown if it doesn't come out to what is effectively Red Bull's press conference. So I'll just change it to that, because we do know Red Bull's press conference is in just over 2 hours' time, and then we will hear, basically, you know, we're gonna hear the outcome before that point. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see. So yeah, it shouldn't be too long now. Just a few seconds, hopefully 10 seconds, until we can have this whole ordeal over with and we can get into discussing it, which is slightly less depressing. Or maybe Ferrari could get a horse stable overspend on them for marketing purposes. Exactly, yeah. There will be some ways that teams try to outsmart the budget cap. You know, there will be ways that teams try to give it a go. Who do you think is going to win the championship next season? I mean, I'd probably, you've got to go on current car performance. You have to go Red Bull, surely, because it, you know, with the engine advantage and just a general car advantage they have at the moment, you'd have to say them. But yeah, I'm not sure. Ordeal over with, as if Red Bull won't protest lot. Yeah. Well, no, apparently they have agreed it. So that, you know, that's something we've got going. Okay, right, we haven't heard anything yet. It was apparently meant to have happened. Apparently. But, you know, the FIA could just be 30 seconds late. You know, this is very much a give it sort of 10 minutes to find out if it actually was meant to be now. But like I say, we will 100% know within 2 hours. We will know within 2 hours when Red Bull do their press conference. They won't do that press conference before it's announced. And we know that press conference is scheduled in for just over 2 hours' time. So even if it doesn't come out right now, it will come out soon. They have slow internet, yeah, exactly, yeah. Uploading all the documents. I'm really interested to hear, like, the reasoning and everything, you know. I'm not nervous about the outcome, because I'm pretty confidently going to say it's just going to be aero testing reductions and big fines. You know, we're not going to get any points penalties or session bans or something. There could be, like, a day of preseason testing taken away from them or something like that for next year. But, you know, it's not going to be like Max being stripped of the championship or anything, because Red Bull have agreed to it. You know, we have that confirmed. Red Bull have agreed. This came out last night, to whatever this penalty is. Why would Red Bull agree to a big fine? No, you know, it's not great, but if they know they're going to get a penalty, they're going to accept a big fine over other things. You know, they're probably at the stage where they're just accepting they're going to have to take a penalty. And if that turns out to be a big fine, that's preferable for them, because they'd rather not have a sporting penalty. What have we got? Okay, right, here we go. So FIA confirms $7 million fine for Red Bull and 10% less aerodynamic test time next year. Red Bull is indeed 1.8 million British pounds, 1.6% above the budget cap. Right, okay, is this coming out? I want to see the document, that's what I want to sort of read. That seems low. I'll see, we'll have to wait and hear the reasoning. Not 10, but 15, are we saying? Right, we'll see what everyone else says, because apparently it's all coming out now. Right, so Red Bull gets $7 million fine and 10% reduction in car development time for budget cap breach. They were £1.864 million over the limit, or 1.6%. But FIA acknowledged if a tax credit had been correctly applied, would have been only 0.37, which is still $500,000. That's still, you know, a new floor or two. Of course, the FIA love Red Bull. It's a bit cheap. You know, I think that's on the low side. I'll be honest. You know, like I said, I'm not sitting here saying, oh, we should be taking points away from last year and stuff. I'm not gonna start calling for like the biggest penalties that they could have applied. But that seems 10%. That's not a lot. That's quite. They've got off really like that. When I heard 25%, I thought, you know what? That's a really good penalty, because they will suffer because of that. This is maybe next year they'll be able to bring like one less upgrade. It doesn't seem that I wouldn't call this a penalty. I really wouldn't go as far as calling this a penalty. Have we heard of Aston Martin as well? Because apparently we were meant to hear the Aston Martin fine as well. I mean, I assume that's just going to be in like the 10s or 20s or 100,000. What's 10%? It's 100 less hours. Yeah, exactly, yeah. No, it's It's a hit. Don't get me wrong, it's a hit, but it's not a massive hit. That's not a big hit. It's not ideal, you know, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to sit here and say that a 10% impact won't make a change, but it's not going to make a massive impact. It won't make a huge impact, that. Red Bull got a W. Yeah, I've got to agree. I think Red Bull have... Red Bull be very happy with that. They've had 2 seasons with an advantage. This isn't good enough. And yeah, that's the argument that a lot of people are going to make. Right, so what have we got here? So, accepted breach agreement states, there is no accusation or evidence Red Bull Racing has sought at any time to act in bad faith. Well, they're not going to... Okay, fair enough, yeah. Dishonestly or in a fraudulent manner, nor has it willfully concealed any information from the cost cap administration. Well, okay, that's the bare minimum. You'd hope that's not the case. 13 points are highlighted as areas that were incorrectly interpreted by Red Bull. 13? Wow. Include catering, unused parts, PUs, and needed revising that led to the final 1.6% overspend figure. So that's why it took so long. There was 13 points, effectively, that needed to be clarified and then decide what's going to happen. That's good enough, honestly. I think it's a bit low. I think it's a little bit low. I honestly, even 20%, I'd have said, you know what, that's harsh enough, that's probably fair. I don't know, I just think 10% is a little bit low. Yeah, I don't know what you guys' thoughts on it are, but I just think it's a little bit low. Yo, Bradley, hello, Sam, how you doing? Hey, mate, hello, SHT, how are you doing? A slap on the wrist, the FIA have lost their balls. It feels, yeah, even 15%, you know. Even 15% is a bit better. If only I could argue for misinterpreting my exam question for extra grades. That's the thing, is, you know, what other areas could you get away with something like that? Right, here we go. So the FIA have now put out the document, so let's take a look. So we've now got our hands on the document. So, following the admission of all required documentation by all 10 Formula 1 teams, the Cost Cap Administration carried out the first ever review process under the FIA Formula 1 World Championship financial regulations. These new financial regulations are a very complex set of rules. You see, it's even lines like this that is like setting up what's coming further along in the document. They're saying, like, you know, it's very complex, teams misunderstand it, that competitors were required to adapt to for the first time. And again, this whole line is basically, I think, their reasoning for why it's a lower penalty. It's like, you know, it was the first year. In the same concept that we give lesser penalties and we're a bit more lenient on lap 1 of a race. I think that's sort of what they're trying to get across. Red Bull Racing was found to be in breach. However, the Cost Cap Administration recognised that Red Bull Racing had acted cooperatively throughout the review process and has sought to provide additional information and evidence when requested in a timely manner. Okay, again, that is the bare minimum, but we'll roll with that. I don't, you know, okay. So what I can make out there is Red Bull made a 1.4 million tax F-up. Yep. If they did that correctly, they would have been fine. What you guys look at, sensational punishment for the most epic season ever. It was a great season. A great season, don't get me wrong. But that shouldn't come into play. You know, that's the thing. Take away the Drivers' Championship. What's the point of imposing a fine on a team that overspent? Red Bull lose millions down the back of their sofa. Yeah, it won't impact them too much, the fine. And that's I've been saying that the whole time. You know, the fine isn't going to make a massive difference. This is the first year of full application of financial regulations, and there's no accusation or evidence that Red Bull Racing has sought at any time to act in bad faith, dishonestly, or in a fraudulent manner. An accepted breach agreement dated 26th of October 2022 was therefore entered into by and between the Cost Cap Administration and Red Bull Racing, pursuant to Article 6.28 of the Formula 1 Financial Regulations. Which a link to the summary was there. Cool. Okay, so right, let's take a look at this then. This is going to be a bigger document, but let's take a look at it. So there we go. Right, so that's where we ended off last time. Recognise acted cooperatively, full application of the rules, which are very complex. So right, here we go. So these are the numbers. Red Bull submitted relevant costs reported in its 2021 full year reporting documentation of £114,293,000. £114,293,000. Subsequent to the findings of the Cost Cap Administration, a procedural breach committed by Red Bull Racing pursuant of 8.2e of the financial regulations due to submission of accurate full-year reporting documentation. Oh, so they actually had an accurate documentation anyway, so that's where the procedural breach will come from, I imagine. Yeah, so yeah, there we go, they say it. Consequently, a minor overspend breach committed by Red Bull Racing under Article 8.10b of the financial regs, because its relevant costs, as addressed by the FIA, exceeded the 2021 cost cap of 118,036,000 by less than 5%. So yeah, this is the headline figure. This is how much they overspent by this £1.864 million figure. I'm just gonna quickly change the stream title as well. So FIA announce Red Bull final penalty. There we go. So yeah, 1.6% was the overspend. So yeah, £1.864 million. Great British sterling is the overspend there. So for guys just joining the stream, because I've just seen we've had about another 100 people or so, the penalty has been a 10%, only 10% deduction in wind tunnel testing time for next season. Personally, I would have thought a 20% would have been, 20% and a fine was on the low end of penalties, but fair, given that they've, had tax rebate issues and stuff. 10%, it will impact them come the end of the year, but the initial development of their car and the early upgrades that they bring in next year will not be impacted. If we have a really close championship next year, that could be where they lose out, though. Obviously, it's worth pointing that out. But if they have a quick car at the start of next year, they should be fine. I don't think they'll lose a championship because of this or anything. What are we saying? They should have 60% wind time. I hope they add the wind reduction and not multiply it. Adds 10% on. Can we get live reaction from Mercedes and Ferrari? Yeah, we'll see if any of them say anything. Any chance for 7 million fine comes out of their cap for 2023? Nope, that won't happen. The 7 million fine is any fines on top of, outside of the sporting context for things like this that happen. The team, it doesn't count for the budget cap. Right, so in my personal opinion, I'll sort of throw out what my opinion would have been for what penalty I'd have given, especially now we sort of know the numbers a bit more. I would have given, a decent fine. I think they've probably got about the fine figure fairly accurate. I think that, that's reasonable. It won't really impact any Formula 1 team, a fine, unless it's massive, because they've all got enough spare money. But I think a 20% reduction in aero testing would have been reasonable, because that's like, no one's going to break the rules again because they don't want that. That's a hefty penalty. And then maybe a real slight budget cap reduction for future years. That would have been my... I'm not talking a big deduction here. I'm talking like little couple of percentage. It's yeah, it's a bit... I know it just seems a bit low. I don't personally see a way where they're going to lose out from just that 10% reduction, unless it's an incredibly close season next year. Imagine every single team starts doing this and every team get these kind of penalties and the whole cost. Yeah, that's my problem. It's I feel like it's one of those... It'll be interesting to see what happens next year, because There are mitigating circumstances for why Red Bull ended up over. You know, there are reasons why it happened, and as F1, I believe, correctly says here, they didn't mean to do it. They thought they were under. But the way the rules actually are, they were over. You know, you can think something's legal and then do it. And yeah, I don't know. It's a tricky one. It's a really tricky one. And it's because it's the first year we've had it. It's not cut and dry at all. They won't lose out. It's too little. Yeah, I don't... Even 15%, I think... I don't know. Basically, it just means for a couple of races less at the end of the year, they won't be able to develop the car using the wind tunnel time. So, yeah, obviously we'll have to wait and see how it impacts them. We'll have to wait and see how it impacts them in the end of the day. This feels like Maradona's hands of God moment. It's not correct, but few are celebrating it. Yeah, tough luck. Rules are the rules. I think that penalty is way too minor. Yeah, and that's it. I'm not going to sit here and accuse Red Bull of deliberately doing it. I think the FIA are right. I don't think they at all meant to overspend. They interpreted the rules in a way that just ended up not being correct. But that's almost well, too bad. Tough. Yeah, it's a tricky one. Actually, yeah, let's do a poll. Obviously, I mean, it's quite hard to do a poll with this, because if I say, are you happy with the penalty, we're going to have the Red Bull fans saying yes, and every other fan saying no. So it's, I appreciate this is going to be a biased question, and we're going to get biased results, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Are you happy with the 10% reduction penalty? So we're not going to chuck in like more penalties. What we're going to say here is yes, just enough. We're going to go no, needed more. And we're even going to chuck in, just for the hardcore Red Bull fans, a no, needed less. But I think that will be 100% Red Bull fans answering on that one. So yeah, anyway, we've got that poll up, so if you want to have a go on that. No, I'm not, Bradley, it's a joke. Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot. I might, I'm slightly tempted to go on my personal Twitter here and sort of see what people are saying. Because I don't imagine it's gone down too well with large chunks of the Formula 1 fan base, which was expected. Get a really big slap on the wrist. How is Christian Horner going to cover up the bruising on the wrist? 10%, what a yoke. They're already using their current wind tunnel testing they had left over from this year to mitigate the effects for next year. Yeah. Whoops, clicked the wrong one. 10% on top of the already shortest constructors' time is no joke. Yeah, so one thing we will have is obviously because they've won the Constructors' Championship this year, it means they are going to see less wind tunnel testing time anyway next year, and then they're going to have a 10% reduction on top of that. So they are going to have a lot less wind tunnel testing time than every other team on the grid. So, there is that. There is that, at least, I guess, for a lot of fans. There is at least that. So yeah, anyway, let's just finish reading this document. So what we got was the relevant costs. So period would have in fact exceeded by only £400,000. So only a 0.37 extension. But again, that it is possible that is an upgrade or two. So this is all done and dusted now, or can the other teams now protest? I think it'll probably say around the bottom of this document that I'm on now. So we'll see. Red Bull Racing must pay a financial penalty of $7 million within 30 days to the FIA. Red Bull receives a minor sporting penalty in the form of a limitation of Red Bull's ability to conduct aerodynamic testing during a period of 12 months from the date of execution of the ABA. Through the application of a... So, okay, right. So it's a 10% reduction of whatever they have... Oh, okay, right. This is a... Right, so 12 months from the date of the execution of the ABA, which is the accepted breach agreement, through the application of a reduction of 10% of coefficient C used to calculate the individual restricted wind tunnel testing and restricted computational fluid dynamics. Each team is set out in Article 6. For example, if the coefficient C based on Red Bull's championship position is 70%, the effective new C will now be 7% times 1 minus 0.1, which equals 63%. So that's effectively what they'll have for next year is, of the team that finishes bottom of the championship, they'll only have about 63% or so of that wind tunnel testing time. Red Bull Racing bears the costs incurred by the cost cap administration in connection with the preparation of the accepted breach agreement. The decision of the administration enter into the ABA constitutes its final decision resolving this matter and is not subject to appeal. Non-compliance by Red Bull Racing with any terms of the ABA will result in a further procedural breach, which again would be a further fine, under Articles 6.3 and 8.2f of the financial regulations and automatic referral to the cost cap adjudication panel. What a romantic sentence. Aston Martin's not confirmed yet. I don't think so. I haven't seen it. So it's 7% instead of 10. Yes. So it's a 10% reduction of whatever they were allowed. So, and yeah, I guess when you put it that way, so yeah, if a team that finishes last in the championship gets that 10% reduction, they face a bigger penalty for it. They lose more time than, let's say, Red Bull are in this situation because they finished first in the championship. And that feels wrong. That feels like a flaw in the system, that the smaller teams, because they finish lower down, will get a bigger penalty than the bigger teams do because of the way it's applied. That feels wrong to me. I think that's probably my biggest problem with this, rather than the actual harshness of the penalty, is that it's a naturally weighted to be unfair on the smaller teams. They'll get bigger penalties from it. That seems unfair. Sees the option no needed. No needed less clicks it. I know exactly. That's what I mean. I think I know the demographic clicking on that one when I made it. But, you know, it's worth making it an option. Make her hurt more. Many teams are going to do this now. Major flaw in the system. Yeah, that's a problem. I think... Yeah, it just seems like, yes, it's a really small... Well, a really small £400,000. Okay, it is 1.8, but there was a tax rebate problem, so it ended up being 400,000. Small teams won't reach. Smaller teams can. They're obviously less likely because they're already sort of operating on the edge of it already. But they definitely can hit it. They can hit it. Time to spend money and win. I will say from this, if I'm Alpine sitting there right now looking at this, I'm thinking, well, okay, let's just overspend by 4% next year. Why not? You know, if it falls under that minor breach, let's spend an extra, you know, $5 or $6 million over the budget cap and just bring some extra upgrades to the car. We're just going to, you know, go for a glory year, try to build a good foundation for the car. You'll probably get a fine. You might get a couple of practice sessions you have to miss. But quite frankly, the minor breach penalties are too small. There's no doubt about that. It shouldn't go up to 5%. It should go up to about 1% for minor breaches. But again, I think that's just an inherent flaw with this system. Alpine is not going to win a championship 5 minutes. No, they won't win a championship. No. They definitely won't win a championship. But they could get, you know, more prize money. They could get a couple of podiums, which is loads of extra sponsorship. And so, like, you can benefit from doing that. It wouldn't be a championship, probably. You know, I don't think it would be. But you can get an advantage from it, long term. And as a joke, everyone will now overspend except Haas. Yep. I'm absolutely howling. Merc are losing their minds. Yeah. What team do I support? So I support McLaren. And that's what I've been saying a lot in this. It's like, if McLaren did this, I'd just be disappointed in them. You know, you see a lot of people being very militant on Twitter, talking about it. But I'm like, no, if McLaren did this, I'd want a harsh penalty. And again, I'm only saying this to sort of sum up what my position is on the budget cap. Even if my team minorly broke the rules in this same way, I'd want a harsher penalty. I don't know. But as I found out over the last few, year doing these streams, I am quite harsh on penalties. I'm not very lenient when it comes to penalties. I'm of the mindset of, look, if you break the rules, you deserve a penalty for it, and you deserve a strong penalty for it, so that no one ever does it again. And then there's no grey area. That's just my position on the rules. Saw the Alonso penalty verdict. Yeah, I saw that this morning. Woke up to that this morning. I think, obviously, with the way the rules are written again here, that was the right decision to revoke it, because Haas did, despite being told by the stewards that they had an hour, they did, in fact, only have half hour to lodge that protest. So, yeah, that's a tough one for Haas. I'll be a bit annoyed, because the stewards did tell them they had an hour to do it. But again, ultimately, that's not what's in the rules, and they lost out because of it. How much time left for the press conference? So Red Bull's press conference is scheduled for... Hang on, I did a tweet. Let me just find it. I did do a tweet. Here we go. So the press conference is... Where? Here we go. 5:30 p.m. UK time, which is in 2 hours' time. And I'm going to be brutally honest with how non-severe this penalty is. I'm not sure that's going to be a particularly interesting press conference. So I'm not sure we'll keep going for another, for another 2 hours. But we will keep discussing it, and we'll get over all of your questions. So let's find like a good headline tweet to just sort of leave up while I go to the chat and sort of talk to you all. Slow news day. So here we go. We'll do that. From Jenny Gow. We like Jenny. Right, so what you were saying. Red Bull best team and the best driver. So completely agree with it. But now Merc will be a savage and do massive overspend. Cheating is not considered cheating in F1, is it? No, historically not. And teams will always try to get away with whatever they can. So Red Bull have a reduction of 23 hours total, as if Williams have to get so... Yeah, and that's... Yeah, John, that's my big problem with this. That's my biggest problem with this, is that a smaller team... A smaller team will get a bigger penalty. That just doesn't seem remotely fair, that a big team gets a smaller penalty because of how this is weighted. That's my biggest problem. I'm not particularly fussed about the penalty actually given out now. I feel like this is a bigger problem. That next year could play a big part, and that seems really unfair. Please ban these bots. Yeah, we try to keep on top of the bots, but they are quite annoying. I'll try to do some as well. Banning. Put user in timeout. Is that a thing? Hide user from the channel. Yeah, we can do that. Well, that didn't seem to do anything. Oh my god. Toto next year hiring Elon Musk to make a car. Yeah, does it seem right? Yeah, no. I need more mods. Yeah. If anyone here wants to be a mod, if you do a few streams, then we do, if you're in the chat regularly, then we do hand out the mods. If we have any volunteers. It ruins the sport, in my opinion. Okay, yeah. So, like I've been saying for this last couple of months, the whole time this has been going, I'm just happy it's over for a start. I wanna say I'm happy we're finally done with the whole budget cost cap. That's great. I have not enjoyed talking about this. It's not even a fun topic to talk about. Happy it's over. On the other hand, I do fear that this penalty being as small as it is opens up minor overspend breaches for next year for quite a few teams. Which means we're going to have to put up with this almost every year, which I really don't want to be doing because, as I've just said, I hate it. It's not a fun topic to talk about, and it does now seem like every October, if we know the penalties are only going to be this small for the proper minor overspends, then teams aren't going to stick to it as strictly as they maybe have to, or as they were before even. I would F up as a mod, even though I'm here quite often. I know. I never mod for anyone else. I'm like, I don't trust myself. I would like to be a mod. Balaji, yeah. You may be a mod. I can see when mods do bad things, actually, so I can just remove it if someone's like deleting messages from people they don't like or something, so I can do it. It doesn't cost anything at all. Right, Clutch, you can do it. There you go. Thank you for volunteering. There you go. Yeah, no, it doesn't cost anything or anything. You literally just have to, if someone's being all sweary and rude and abusive, you can put them in timeout, or if there's bots, you can ban them, basically. Just keeps the chat a lot more clean for everyone reading it. Lewis Hamilton fans are the only ones crying. I don't know, I mean, the Ferrari fans are as well, from what I'm seeing on my Twitter at the moment. It does seem like Red Bull fans are, of course, the only ones happy with this. So yeah, I'm seeing some tweets like, I like the reduction in development. I just think that it really isn't enough, along with a fine. Teams should have their budgets for following seasons reduced as well, if we're talking points deduction off the table. And that's the thing, I would have added to this a budget cap reduction for next year as well. And that's just something I'd have added. Because, look, what's happening here is they're saving money by not using that wind tunnel time that they can instead put into development elsewhere, because their budget cap's the same size. So what they should do is reduce the budget cap by the same amount it costs to do that 10% in the wind tunnel testing. That's what should happen, because now they have extra money by not doing that wind tunnel testing to put elsewhere on the car for next year. So, Holding documents during Spygate came out worse. Yeah, well, yeah. Did Merc have any final upgrades for Abu Dhabi 2021? No, I don't believe so. I don't believe they did. I think really Mercedes basically just increased their engine performance for the last few races. That's what it looked like. Does fine come out of this year or next year's budget? If it's no, it does not. What was it? I'm trying to get a general gist of what people are saying online. A lot of not very happy fans actually, I'm seeing quite a lot of Red Bull fans laughing at how small the penalty is. And I think that sort of sums it up, doesn't it? I know, I just think it should have been bigger because I don't want to be discussing this every year. And I just feel like this outcome does lead into the idea that teams might deliberately overspend now. And I'm worried about that because it throws the idea of the cost cap a bit into disrepute. So, hello, Hugbear, how you doing? The final it equals the amount they spent from Bottas and Lewis wrecking them last year. Yeah. Also, there's another thing I'd like to see changed in the budget cap. If you have a crash that's not your fault, I sound like an injury lawyer. If you had an accident that isn't your fault, then call up this number. No, if you have a crash that isn't your fault and a penalty goes, the stewards actually give a penalty to another team or another driver for what happened, you shouldn't have that, count towards your budget cap because it's not your fault. As long as you replace them with spec parts. Obviously, you can't get a free upgrade in there by someone crashing into you. That's not fair. Not sure why everyone is surprised by a penalty decision by the FIA was strictly financial. Yeah, but that's going to be such a grey area too. It is. Again, but that's why I sort of word it in the way I do. It's just like if another driver gets a penalty for... oh, yeah. It is a grey area. It is. But, yeah, you get the gist. What's the Red Bull press meet again? That's in, I think, exactly 2 hours' time. So I'm not sure we'll stay on for that long because I'm going to be honest, this penalty is quite small. It's not as dramatic as it maybe could have been. I was hoping what we'd get is a fairly strict penalty, then Red Bull probably coming out with guns blazing in the press conference. But we're probably not going to get that, unfortunately. I think it might be quite a happy Christian Horner. He'll still complain. He'll say, oh, it's unfair. We got this deduction. It should have just been a fine. But, he's going to say that. To all Max haters, cry more. Mercedes is a political joke. FIA going soft? I think they have a bit. I think they have gone a bit soft. No one think it's weird that Lewis Hamilton's last DNF on technical failure was in Malaysia 2016 when Bottas had to change engine 5. That's just luck. Honestly, that just comes down to luck. I think 15% be fair. Yeah, again, I just think we're in the area where it was a reasonable penalty, but I think we're just below the soft end of it. 15 to 20%, I would be sitting here going, yeah, most of the overspend came from a tax rebate they didn't get, and they only overspent by a couple of $100,000. They're going to be impacted with a 15 to 20% reduction. I just don't see how what is ultimately a 7% deduction. Red Bull fans, be happy. Be happy here. This shouldn't impact you. This shouldn't impact you too much. Yeah, 25% would be statement making. I would probably be sitting here saying 25% might be a bit too harsh, though. I think 20%, 15 to 20% would be reasonable. Yeah, that would be reasonable. 20% would still only add up to 14. Yeah, exactly. If you all think that money affected this chip, y'all delulu. I'm not as insecure on Mercedes. Ferrari do the same. Who cares? Not that much money. Oh, yeah, do you actually want to be a mod? Because I can add you as a mod. Look at show crash from Silverstone. Who are you going to blame for that? Yeah, no, but that's the thing. I mean, I think it should just be when there's a driver penalised for it, Sometimes you'll get unlucky. There won't be a driver penalised. But there's other times where we do have, clear-cut decisions, like Hamilton taking out Verstappen at Silverstone. He got a penalty for that. It is unfair that cost of repairs came to Red Bull's budget cap, and other crashes last year as well. Russell Torpedo was like, yeah, exactly. There you go. Yeah. I offered already. There you go. I'll get you added. Oh, chat's moving. I love trying to chase it. There you go. You have got a blue spanner. Well done. I think the only fine should have been the loss of the driver's title last year and any money they received for winning it. That would be harsh. That would be a harsh one. How will be other teams' reactions? So, I think we're going to hear a fairly unanimous across the paddock. It's too soft. I think that'll be a fairly agreed upon opinion. There'll be a lot of people saying it's too soft. How to be a mod? Basically, just be around here a lot. If I see your name in a few streams, regularly contributing, and I trust you not to just randomly kick everyone, then you can be a mod. Any news on Aston? No, Aston just seems to have been completely ignored. Like, I'm looking, I'm actively searching for an Aston Martin thing, but that I can't find one. I am actively looking for this. On my I can't find it. I don't know what fine Aston Martin got, because apparently they've made the agreement, but I can't find it. Yeah, it's just not here. Yeah. Anyway, it will be a fine for Aston Martin anyway, we know that. The cap is officially over. Well, not quite. Not quite. Look, if we have someone overspending by 4 or 5%, so still falling under minor, we will see the strictest of the minor penalties being applied. And if someone goes like 6% over, then, we're going to see big penalties. That's when we start coming across like race bans, qualifying bans, and things like that. But no, it's I feel. I know I do think it's a bit too soft, mostly because I wanted a penalty not to punish Red Bull, but to prevent teams doing it in the future. I don't think this does it. How much did they overspend by? Right, so officially the headline figure is they overspent by where was the big one? Where was it? It was about 1.8 million. I know that. But we do have the exact figure somewhere here. Yeah, 1.864 million Great British Pounds, which is 1.6% over the cost cap. They've spent about, 1.8 million pounds. There we go. Yeah, 1.864. So that's how much they've spent by, and they get effectively a 7% deduction to their wind tunnel testing time from what is the normal wind tunnel testing time. The FIA play with Red Bull. I don't know. I've made my opinion fairly clear on this, weeks ago whenever we've done any of these streams. I wanted to see a harsh penalty just to stop teams doing it in the future. I fear we'll have to wait and see for next year, but I fear this penalty doesn't do that. Yell dramatic gain triggered by 500k. There's a reason it says less than 5% and minor major. But I will say I think minor should be reduced to about a 1% overspend limit, because 4.9% over the budget cap is not minor. that is a whole upgrade package for your car. What have we got? This isn't good enough. Karen Horner will be very happy. Yes, it means overspending is a fair penalty. Horner sacking his accountants as we speak. Yeah, and look, we have to take that into account. These were mistakes by the accountants. It's not Christian Horner and Max Verstappen sitting there going, ha ha ha, we overspent by 1.8 million pounds. Look at that. It's mistakes in the finance department. But it's right. So Chris Medland's put up a poll. Time for a poll. The punishment given to Red Bull by the FIA is, and then we've got too lenient, just right, and too harsh. There's 4,600 votes. 54% are too lenient, 36% just right, and 10% too harsh. And those numbers sort of roughly reflect our poll as well, so that's encouraging. You can literally build a new car for 1.8. Yeah. Not quite 1.8 million. The parts are very expensive, but it's a whole new upgrade package that you could bring in with that much money. One time a new car parts Red Bull could have had for that kind of cash. Yeah, fair bit. Was it mistakes, or was it just seeing what would happen? Red Bull always seemed the one eager to poke the bear. That's a good theory. That's a really good theory. And it could be true. They go at the lower end of the overspend limit just to sort of see what will happen. And then maybe they can budget for an extra 1% in this year's budget cap, let's say. But no, I have to say the one problem I've got with this now is I do think this year and maybe next year, we could see 3 or 4 teams doing a minor overspend and just happy to take a hit just to get an extra upgrade package on the car if they're in a really close battle. I will say one thing that might stop that is a $7 million fine. I don't know if that'd be the same size for other teams, but we'll see. All the teams right now adding that to their budget for next year, yeah, and that's what I was worried about potentially happening. So we'll have to see what the outcome, how that goes, because I'm not entirely sure. Truebill also gets rules. F1 equals WWE. I know, it's not quite as scripted. Not quite. I'm going to change the thumbnail to the one where it's just me celebrating, going, it's finally over. Because thank God, this hasn't been a fun topic to talk about. Last year was fun because it was all dramatic and on-track stuff and mistakes. This one's just accounting. A harsh penalty would have made the other teams think again before it's... Yes, exactly. That's the biggest thing for me, is there needed to be a penalty to prevent teams doing this in the future. I'm not sure this one does. We'll have to wait and see, next October. Hopefully, we find out that no one's overspent and we don't have to go through all of this again. Unfortunately, I fear they will have, but, we'll wait and see for next year, which will be fun, won't it? Teams can start GoFundMes for fans to contribute to fines. 50% would still only be 35% in reality. That would make a massive impact if they would put down to 75%. If they would put down to 35% wind tunnel time, that would be a major penalty. That would be a big penalty. Bro Fine doesn't do anything. Teams like Red Bull, Merc, and Ferrari can easily spend more and just pay the fine. Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing. I don't... Again, I go back to the football analogy. You're either onside or you're offside. It doesn't matter how ahead you are. It doesn't matter how far ahead of that last defender you are. You're offside. It's the same penalty. And I would have liked to have seen a similar concept being applied to the budget cap. Evidently, that's not the route the FIA are going down. So, yeah. True, but not as dramatic as 50% seems. Yeah, exactly, yeah. And again, that's where we go back to this 50% problem. It's, Williams. Actually, who's at the bottom of the Constructors' Championship this year? Is it Williams? I believe it's Williams. I haven't checked it for a while. I don't look down there often. You have to worry that they would have got a full 50%, but Red Bull would only get 35%. And that's not really fair. Can't hear me? Hang on. I think the... Oh, is the stream working? I think the stream is working now. I think my internet may have had a moment there. Can I be heard? Stream dead? I think it was dead. It seems to be back now. It seems to be fine now. Does the fine add to this year's budget? If so, that'd be pretty bad. No, it doesn't. So, cost cap fines don't count towards the budget. Toad probably broke the table. Refresh. Yes, actually, yeah, refresh. I hear other YouTubers saying this. If you haven't refreshed, refresh. Toto probably broke the table. However, the way teams get a bit of leeway, they can help you with title fights. With tight fights, sorry, yeah. But you have to pay for it next year. Yeah. I don't know. I really, really don't know. It just seems a bit soft. Fine is not included in development. No, it's not. So the cost cap only counts towards development and performance updates and things like that. So, manufacturing of the car and upgrades and so on. That's the only thing that it counts for. You had a little dip, but you're back. Okay, cool. Stream is okay now, yeah, we're here. Yeah, I think I've got my Ethernet plugged in, but I think it did go for a second. It looks to be okay now. I can see the output's about 5,000 kilobits per second, so that seems fine. Then the budget cap stays the same. Yeah, budget cap's not impacted. I love how all the other team bosses were like, OMG, we must do them, when they agreed on penalties and definition of minor transgression just 2 years ago. Yeah, I think they all agree to it. But again, I would have just moved 0.4% over is not a massive amount. So someone on Twitter's just pointed out saying, to me it seems a bit weird saying, yeah, if we got that tax rebate, we would have only been 0.4% over. But yeah, but they didn't get it. So how is it relevant? And, you know, why have the FIA taken that into consideration? They didn't get the rebate. So, it seems weird. I just feel like the FIA have softened it as much as they can get away without it being completely scandalous. And, again, you know, I can't sit here and say it's biased, it's not biased, because we haven't seen anyone else get penalties. Next year, I hope you record. If you can't hear me refresh, which I appreciate is a problem with me saying that because you can't hear me, but refresh if you can't hear. I'll put that in the chat. Does the fine impact the budget cap? No. So the fine does not impact the budget cap in any way. Is that all? I didn't even said that out loud. WTF? FIA screwed everybody but Red Bull. I have to say, Red Bull fans must be loving the FIA from these last couple of years. You know, sometimes teams just have that period where everything seems to go their way. And at the moment, it's Red Bull's turn. And you know what? Lucky them. 7 minutes lot. It's not to Red Bull. It's not to that organisation. It is already a scandal. I mean, it is, yeah, and it's not been a good look for the FIA at all. So, How can you say it's not enough the minute you hear the verdict? Well, I mean, we've read over the full document. You know, it's been out 43 minutes now, and we've read over the whole document. So, and we've read all the reasons. So I think we can come to a pretty reasonable conclusion. Now they are stuck with this verdict, any other decision for a similar situation in the future will make a scandal. Yeah, and that's my problem. It's they've now got to stick to this kind of precedent, and I just think it's way too soft. You know, I feel like it's letting too much go. No need to put him in timeout, bro. What was that for? Hang on, what did they say? I have to see what they said. Oh no, it's okay. Yeah, you don't need to do those too much. This is punishment. Is there any point in the budget cap? First time it is used, Red Bull, F it up. Yeah, and again, I think there is some leniency because it's the first year, and the FIA do point that out in their statement. They say, look, it's really complex. It was the first year for all of this to happen. Yeah, and look, right, so if we're gonna move forward from discussing the penalty to the actual implications now. So a 7% reduction in their wind tunnel testing time means they now, instead of just having the lowest wind tunnel testing time on the grid because of the sliding scale system for next year, they now have by far the lowest wind tunnel testing time. And so, well, aero testing time, it's not wind tunnel necessarily, but aero testing time for all of the CFD and wind tunnel stuff. So, if we look at it from a purely analytical point of view for how this is going to impact them in 2023 and 2024, it won't impact the start of the 2023 season. There will not be a single impact to the start of 2023. But, let's say it's a really close championship battle next year. They could lose the championship because of it, because their development will stagnate at the end, middle to end of 2023 season, whereas whereas Ferrari, Mercedes, McLaren, Alpine, so on, they all have more time to develop. So their development's going to carry on. Red Bull's is going to stagnate, which also, I think the biggest trade-off, because you know what, actually, now Red Bull have a big dilemma. Do they take, so they're like, okay, we've got this reduction. Do they apply that to the 2024 car? So do they basically just kill all development for that 2024 car using CFD? That's good, actually. This is an interesting trade-off, and Red Bull will be sitting here now going, right, where do we apply this penalty to? Do they stop the development of the 2024 car during the 2023 season? Do they take it away from that? Or do they stagnate at the end of the 2023 season? And I think that's the beauty of how small this penalty is, because they'd have expected to win the Constructors' Championship this year. They already knew they were only going to get 70% of what the 100% value is. So did they apply this de facto 7% penalty to just developing the 2024 car less? And that's quite interesting. That's an interesting thought the Red Bull have got on their hands now. They'll have to have a good think about that. So yeah, the realistic realistic performance impact of all of this, it is basically just no impact on the start and middle of 2023, but once we get to the end and the start of 2024, we expect their development to stagnate a little bit. So in the winter break after the 2023 season, it will appear like Mercedes and Ferrari have taken a bigger leap than Red Bull have, I think, is a general gist of it. If I think I'm making sense here. I know what I mean in my head. I think I'm explaining it right. Money-wise, 7 mil is nothing for them. Yeah, exactly, yeah. And the wind tunnel time, most common of the work is done on computers. Yeah, you've got CFD as well. But they have been reduced on CFD time. They have Nui. He does not need a tunnel. No, that's what I mean. His brain is a wind tunnel. Well, the cost cap's dead. I do fear that a little bit. Especially for the minor overspends. Anything less than 2% now, basically you can say there's a precedent for there just being no real penalty. Not all the others are respective. Sure, I'm not sure they will. If I'm another team looking at this, if I'm in a tight battle this year or next year, where you really need to win, let's say like your job's potentially on the line as a team principal, I might just push for the overspend a little bit. Or for your sponsors and so on, you might actually get more than that. 7 million fine? There's a precedent now for a $7 million fine, so they'll, hopefully get more than that in sponsors for beating their rival. I think Red Bull already has a big start for next year, given how far up they were now, so I don't think it'll matter. No. Look, next year, they're still the favourites. If it was a 20-25% penalty, I would say that probably kicks them off as favourite, kicks them out of being favourites for next year, or at least for it being an easy ride. But with how small this penalty is, they are slam dunk favourites for next year. Because they can win the championship by this point in the season, and then they don't have to develop anyway. It doesn't matter, you don't need that wind tunnel time. But no, I think for the start of 2024, that's where they will probably feel the hindrance the most, is the development for the 2024 car. So you might have to wait about 2 years to actually see this punishment come into play, really. F1 is so boring to see. I don't know, I mean, we had a good race last weekend. And this weekend could be good. Mercedes should be quicker, for the same reason that Red Bull are normally quite quick in the Mercedes domination era at Mexico. Mercedes now should benefit from that with the lower air density because of the altitude. So, look, we had a good weekend last time out. We had a good race. Should hopefully be a good race this time out as well. But I have to agree, I have at times this season found it a little bit underwhelming. There's been some races out where that Red Bull car has just been phenomenal. It has just been so good. It has worked so well. They've got the setup perfect. Max and Checo, well, Checo less, but Max has just been so tuned in, and it's been phenomenal. Some of the races and performances have been underwhelming. We just haven't really had a glimpse of a championship battle really since sort of the first 10 races. And again, that's down to Ferrari. I'm not blaming like these new regulations or anything. One thing I will take as a positive from this year is the fact that this is the closest a grid has been in field spread terms, with a new set of regulations coming into play. So I think 3 years down the line, we should, once all the teams converge on one design, have a brilliant brilliant series. This is less a punishment and more of an inconvenience. Yeah, I think you've summed it up quite well there, Michael. It's more of like Red Bull be sitting there going, "Oh, that's a bit annoying," rather than, "Oh, damn, that was harsh." They're sort of sitting there like, "Oh, that's an inconvenience, isn't it?" The races in the season were great, but season itself wasn't very interesting, to say the least. We've had some good races this year. We've had Silverstone again. I mean, I was there, so that does tend to make it better anyway. A boring race where you're there is not actually that boring, but I've rewatched Silverstone, and it's a good race. It was a good race. Penalty should be 10% deduction in next year's constructors' points. Well, that's not in the regulations, so they couldn't have done that. The only option they would have had is a deduction for constructors' points from the period where the overspend happened. So yeah, I mean, we could probably say it should have been a penalty or should be a penalty. But the way the regulations are written, that's not one of the options that the FIA actually have at their disposal. I was at Silverstone this year. Whereabouts were you sat? I was at Stowe B. I think Stowe B. I was at. They should give every other team 5% more. Yeah, I think there should be like a I mean, they've effectively given all the teams about 7% more by Red Bull's penalty, so it sort of has the same effect. But I was at Cop C. Oh right, okay, yeah, you had a pretty good race then. They should give... Okay, yeah, I've just read on. The FIA is setting themselves up for trouble at the end of next year. Yeah, that's the biggest problem I've got is I don't want to be sitting here in October saying 5 teams have just done a minor overspend and then see all 5 of them get really minor penalties again, because then the next year it will be 8 teams have done it and then they all get minor penalties and then the FIA have to clamp down and then the 2 teams who never broke it, let's say, will be going, well, that's not fair, we never broke it, and they all got minor penalties. You know, I just see this outcome leading to more problems years down the line now, and I don't like that because I really, as I've said many times, this is not a fun topic to talk about. It's not particularly interesting. Who will win in Mexico? Who will win in Mexico? You know what? Do I chuck out... no. Okay, right. No. I will say Mercedes have the biggest chance of winning a race as they've had all season, based on theory coming into it. You know, it might not turn out that way, but on the face of it, they've got the best chance they've had all year. Red Bull's advantage will be less. They'll have less of an engine advantage. There's a lot of dirty downforce that you can afford to have at Mexico. So maybe Ferrari. Maybe Ferrari could do something at this one. I don't really know. Honestly, I think this weekend could be any of the top 3 teams. Last few weeks, I've sort of gone, yeah, it's only really a Red Bull that can win it. But this weekend, I do. And Max will obviously lose an element of the edge he had now the championship's all wrapped up, because there's nothing to risk. He's won the championship. It doesn't matter. So any of the top 3 teams, really. If I had to make a prediction, I'd probably go with Max just because the cars are quickest, but the other drivers should be closer than where they were before. So you're saying Max first, Checo second, third Leclerc. Again, I can see that happening. Very much see that happening. Hopefully we get another slow pit stop again for the Red Bull guys, because that made the race a bit more interesting, didn't it? Checo's car's quickest. Mercedes. We as Mercedes, Ferrari, Alpine, whoever you follow that isn't Red Bull, can hold our heads high knowing that Red Bull can only win championships by cheating. Yeah, I'm trying to read some more... Trying to read some more comments, what everyone's saying. Yeah, I mean, the problem is with Twitter, everyone's just incredibly biased. We don't really get a lot of proper analysis on there. It's just all the Hamilton fans going, this is a disgrace. All the Ferrari fans going, this is a disgrace. And all the Red Bull fans going, yeah, this seems about right. Yeah. Just put Checo in Max's car. It is a good news that all is fixed now. Fair decision from the FIA. Hopefully, we can move on from this whole discussion. I was hoping that would be the case, but I just think with how lenient this penalty is, we can move away from it for 8 months. But, when we come back to next year, we're going to get, there's reports that 4 teams have breached the budget cap. And it's like, oh, please don't. Please don't put us through it again. So actually, the leaks that came out saying it was around 1 to 2 million that Red Bull overspent by, whether that be by pure luck or, legitimate sources, ended up being true. So there you go. The video that I made ended up being right. I love it when my videos end up being true. It always brings a smile to my face. I do try to use the most reliable sources for it, but you can never be 100% sure because, people do just, they lie. It's just what people do. So how long? Oh, yeah, I've been going for about... I'll keep going for like another 15 minutes or something, I think. So Red Bull have got a press conference in an hour and a half's time. I don't think it's going to be particularly interesting, but if you want to watch it or like look at it, it's in an hour and a half time. yes, keep an eye out for that. Next year, Red Bull again breaching the cap for next season, 10 teams. Yeah, why is no one commenting? Oh, yeah, no. You receive Max Championship and Red Bull Championship. I receive Checo home win, Lewis Brazil. Yeah, that's what I want. I would kill for a Checo win this weekend, Lewis in Brazil, and Seb at Abu Dhabi. Getting, like, even a podium, as you say. It would just be brilliant. I need to see Seb on the podium again. Like, he was such an integral part of watching Formula 1 in my childhood when I was, like, introduced to the sport. I need to see him be good again. I need him to get a good performance in. But Aston Martin have been coming on in pace the last few races. That bodes well for them. I'm sure no one will dare overspend it. I don't think so. I really don't think so. I mean, again, look, teams may view it in a different way because, you know, obviously they value their wind tunnel testing time. But I'm not sure. I'm really not sure teams will be put off by that. Not as much as a harsher penalty would have been. Where can we see the Red Bull conference? I don't know if it's televised. Actually, let me have a quick check when Sky Sports broadcast starts, because they might cut into it early to show the press conference, in which case there will obviously be clips of it coming out. But if you follow journalists like Chris Medland and so on, you know, all the sort of big F1 journalists, I'm glad they did this, really time to burn some money. Yes, if you follow some of those like top journalists, then you'll sort of get an idea. Yeah, no, it's at 5:30, so no, the driver's press conference is on Sky at that time. So yeah, I'm not sure there'll be a place to watch it, the press conference. I think it'll be a case of following the print media and see everything that they say about it. Will that 7 million be deducted from next year's budget cap? No, unfortunately. And I think for me that makes it, again, less of a penalty. But for me, I think a flaw in this system is they save money by not doing more wind tunnel testing time. So that money should be deducted from their budget cap for 2023 as well, you know? That makes sense to me because it costs a lot of money to do CFD, trust me. It costs a lot of money, especially at the level that Formula 1 does it. It's bad enough at my uni, yet alone Formula 1 level. So yeah. I think what they should have done is reduce the budget cap by how much it costs to do that extra 10% wind tunnel testing time. Because now they've just got more money to put elsewhere. That's not really much of a penalty. Sure, they've got less of a wind tunnel testing time, but then they've got more money to just put into car parts and development and staff. It doesn't really work. Yeah, F inflation. Let's destroy some paper. It's a joke. Don't actually destroy money. Pretty sure that's a crime. How much they spend though? Right. So let's go back to it for people who are just joined or don't really know. So the breach was by 1.864 million pounds. Sorry, pounds. 1.864 million pounds. But the FIA do say there was a tax rebate that was meant to come in that didn't. That would have reduced it to £432,000. But I don't care about this. I don't care for this argument at all. They didn't get the tax rebate. You know, I can say, oh, my tax returns would be a lot higher if I won the lottery. Okay, but I didn't win the lottery, so it doesn't really do it. You know, it doesn't make a difference, does it? The wind tunnel test time, part of the cap. Yeah, because wind tunnel test time goes to, obviously, the development and production of the car. Like, you know, it's development and performance. So, yes, it does. That's no competitive advantage. It's a new flaw. It's a new flaw or two. Yeah, again, like I say here, the headline figure is 1.8 million. That's how much they officially overspent by. You know, whether they got an advantage from it or not, the headline figure, they overspent by 1.864 million pounds. You know, they didn't get the tax rebate, so, you know, they overspent by that much. You could... I don't know. I just think the FIA have set not a great precedent. That's my big takeaway from this. I don't think it's a great precedent to have set. 7 million for Red Bull is nothing, I know. But if they overspent in areas like catering, where they put, where they put in money had for catering. Yeah, no, and that's why I didn't buy that argument at all, the catering argument, because first of all, it it counts as an employee benefit, which means you're using it to incentivize employees to stay with you, which is a competitive advantage. So I didn't really buy that in the first place. And secondly, you can say it was by catering, or you can say it was from developing the car. You know, just because you put that as the extra 1.8% doesn't mean anything. Loses time in wind tunnel, shows up to test with 8 different front wings. That's the thing, they try it on track instead of the wind tunnel. But that means they will have to spend more money producing parts. And then I guess that comes from the fact they don't have the wind tunnel testing time that they're not having to pay for anymore. So instead of paying for wind tunnel testing, they just pay for new parts to be made, and they try it in person instead and actually get more accurate data. So I would argue there's not a lot of a penalty at all in this, but yeah. That's what I mean. 15 to 20%, I think, is the region that was fair for a reduction. 10% is nothing. It's nothing. And as we've pointed out several times, it actually only goes down to a 7% deduction. So it's nothing. It's really nothing. They've got look, Red Bull fans, be happy. You know, I'm not having a go. It's not your fault. It's not the team's fault. It's the FIA's fault. Be happy with this. What was it? 7 million less FIFA coins for Max. Love that. The FIA count the Red Bull cans in the budget, but technically those drinks are free and should not be counted in the budget. God, I tell you what, they get through enough in a season, don't they? Always got them with them. But yeah, so if anyone has sort of anything else they want to add, then do so. But apart from that, I think we're pretty much done. There's no point streaming till the Red Bull press conference, because I don't think there'll be a stream of it anywhere, and I'm not expecting it to be particularly interesting, if I'm being brutally honest. Also, actually, announcement for the channel as well. I think we're going to be trying to move to doing... I'm going to be trying to push shorts content again, and like trying it on TikTok and YouTube Shorts and Instagram. So if you start seeing some shorts popping up, that's me basically just testing it out, see how well it goes, because I've done it a few times. I've uploaded a few shorts, and some of them did fairly well. So I'm going to see if I try it for like a week or two on a regular basis and like different formats for it. So if you see those sort of videos coming up, that's just me experimenting with content, basically. So yeah, when you see that, that's what that is. Is the fine coming out of their budget for 2023? Nope, it's not. It is not coming out. So the budget cap for 2023 is completely unaffected. Red Bull must be made up. Must be at fair play time. Yeah, exactly, yeah. Would a reduction in pre-season testing be a good idea? I would say so, yep. Missing a day or two in pre-season testing would be a really good penalty, and that's what I thought we might have seen, actually, but no, we didn't. The end of the season 2021 was one of the best ever seen, especially last lap. It was incredible. I mean, it was dramatic. If you're a neutral, it was phenomenal, wasn't it? Is anyone worried that the other team's overspending next year? I am, yeah. That's my biggest problem. I don't care about Red Bull receiving a big penalty. Like I said, I'm a McLaren fan. I don't care. Is the Aston Martin announcement out? That's good to hear. I want to see that. Yeah, no, that's my biggest problem. Again, I don't care it's Red Bull. I've said this so many times. But obviously, we have like new people coming and going. See, I don't care. It's time for the one who've been waiting for, the Aston Martin procedural breach. They've been given a $450,000 fine. I'm sure Lawrence Stroll is not going to be able to sleep tonight. That's a lot of money, isn't it? 12 items, one fewer than Red Bull, where the FIA stated it incorrectly excluded or adjusted costs. So, there you go. Aston Martin given a $450,000 penalty. Lawrence Stroll, my heart goes out to you. I think the FIA need a fine. They're going to overspend for sure. Loz, it's obviously should have come out of next year's budget cap. Every new viewer joining in is asking it. Yeah, look, I'm not being funny. 7 million off of next year's budget cap is massive. That's a really, really big penalty. Like that, I don't think it would even go that high in the major overspend penalty, to be honest. 7 million off next year is a lot. That's like an 8% budget reduction, which is a lot. 450k lot. Yeah, that's what. Yeah, he can like, yeah. Whatever card has, Lawrence Stroll probably still gets contactless up to that limit. So. Yeah, as I say, my heart goes out to him. He's gonna be gutted by that. Toto's mourning too much. I want to hear some other teams' reaction to all of this. No one's put out a statement. No one's being fun. I want drama. I want everyone to start shouting at each other. It's good fun. What did I miss? Right, so full summary of everything that's happened. Red Bull have been given a 10% reduction to their allotted 70% wind tunnel testing time and a $7 million fine. If you were expecting more than that, so were most people. But that is what we have ended up with. There were rumours going around it was only 20%, but it didn't happen. It is only 10% in the end, which to me, in my opinion, is too low. But we'll, we'll see. First shot that I might put out is probably the one pointing out that teams who are lower down the order get a bigger penalty than teams at the top of the order, because that seems like a problem and incredibly unfair. Even if not 7 million, whatever number it was, it should be deducted from. I think they should just, take that 1.8 million and take it away from the 23 budget. That seems like a really simple and obvious solution, but oh well. Because that's sort of how financial fair play in football works. It's over like a 3-year period where you're allowed to lose or gain a certain amount of money. Does 7 million come out of the budget cap? Nope, it does not. It does not. That is just a fine purely to be paid by the team. Why are teams paying money? Being fined, that's why. So procedural breaches are where the fines come from, pretty much. So it seems like they've... So Aston Martin, for 12 articles of a procedural breach, got $450,000, and Red Bull got, for 13 procedural breaches, $7 million total on top of the minor overspend. So it seems like the minor overspend is about $6.5 million or so dollars, which is a lot more than the procedural breaches. So meaning if you're in a close championship battle, you can overspend to win. Yeah, exactly. That's my problem with this. That's my biggest problem with this. And on top of that, not get a real lasting penalty either. Because I still stand by, if Red Bull didn't, if Red Bull put £1.8 million into less into development for next year, for last year. God, what am I saying? Let's restart a sentence. I stand by, if Red Bull didn't put an extra £1.8 million, so they didn't overspend at all, they would not have won last year. That's how close last year's season was. A new floor for Mercedes probably would have made Hamilton champion. New floor for Red Bull made them champion. That's the sort of thing. So, Red Bull fans, be really happy. Mercedes fans, I've always understood why you're annoyed and sad. And again, there's probably another reason. But yeah, at the end of the day, I've been very clear on this. There's nothing the FIA will do about it. I said this immediately once the news came out. The FIA will not touch last year's results. That was always going to be very clear. And I think anyone else saying anything other than that is basically just trying to get like cheap clicks or something, or likes or whatever. Because I saw people rumouring that there'd be points reductions, and I'm just like, what are you doing? It's so obviously not. It's so obviously not going to be. FIA, after only giving fines and no sporting penalties for the next 5 years. Yeah, exactly. They just rack in so much. But you see, there is financial incentive for the FIA to do this. If they give away small penalties, small sporting penalties, then more teams will break the rules, which means they get more money. So they're incentivized. This is a rubbish system we've got in this sport. The FIA are incentivized to give away small sporting penalties. Is Christian still going to sue Toto for defamation? No, because it's very clearly proven that they did overspend, so he wouldn't have a case. Worried about Mercedes had the fastest car from from Brazil to Abu Dhabi? Yeah, they did. But if they had upgrades earlier in the year, then they would have won. That's it. You only needed one race to flip last year, and there were so many marginal races. An extra upgrades here or there would have swung it. Last year's championship was decided by Massey. Yeah, absolutely. And well, trust me, we covered that a lot as well. Well played, Red Bull. I can't wait for the rest of the grid to overspend next year. Yeah, that's the thing. That's my biggest problem. I didn't Again, like, I'm a McLaren fan. I don't care what penalty Red Bull get. Okay, again, I want to make that clear. I just wanted to see a penalty that's not going to make this repeatedly happening every year, and I just fear that this will cause that. I don't want it to. I just think it will now, and I don't like it because as I've said many times, this isn't a fun topic to talk about. This is just accountancy. It's not fun. He took his title as race director a bit too literally. Yeah. Any words on Audi joining? Yeah, I mean, it's great, isn't it? It's great. Sauber are the perennial underachievers for the last couple of decades, so it'll be absolutely class to see if, you know, Audi bringing a bit more talent into the team for the facilities they've got can, you know, rise them up the order. So fingers crossed, we'll see it. Do Red Bull do it again this year? We won't know till next October or September time. We just simply won't know. They might have, as have maybe 8 other teams. We just won't know. But yes. It's fact Mercedes did cheat from Brazil to Abu Dhabi. No, so Mercedes just turned the engine up on Hamilton's car, if we're being honest. I'd love a Bottas Hulkenberg joy for Audi. I think they were... Yeah, so Audi have said that they do want a German driver, so I think that could maybe be a case for Mick Schumacher staying for a little bit longer, but we'll see what Haas decide. Other teams will overspend by 4.9% if Red Bull have overspent again this year, then they must... I think there should be a thing for repeat offenders. You know, I think that should be in the rules as well. You get stricter if you know, you can maybe have 1 year where you do a really minor overspend of like less than 1%, but then if you do it again, you get a bigger penalty and so on. Look, there needs to be a way to stop repeat offending of this. You know, teams will make mistakes. Accountants will make mistakes. But I think we do need a way to prevent this being like a permanent issue that's happening year after year. Seb and Mick, ooh, yeah. I don't know, I don't think we'll be seeing much more Seb. Although I do get the vibe now that I think Seb is maybe not regretting, but I think he's starting to feel the impact of the decision of his retirement. Make sure Audi, please, racing gods. I think that's a pretty safe bet, to be honest. He's the only young German driver out there at the moment that's a reasonable bet. So, yeah, I think that's a pretty safe prayer to the gods. 2 million is not a small mistake. In any company, the guilty accountant will be immediately fired. Yeah, they probably have fired the accountant. I imagine parts of the accountancy team has been fired for this. I'm curious about the spendings of Mercedes. Maybe they have a better finance man. Yeah, maybe. Just a point is fine is 0.14% of Red Bull's income. That's it. It's not a big fine at all. It's not a big fine. And it doesn't even hurt their overhead, really. I wonder how many sets of headphones Toto has gone through this afternoon. He's probably just got them lined up, just takes one at a time and just smashes them until they're broken fully. I wish Seb follows Alonso straight. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? I do want to see another good Seb performance before the end of this year. It would mean a lot to me as someone who has grown up with Sebastian Vettel being there in F1 like their whole life. I would like to see him put in one more good performance. Get a podium. If he succumbs to the curse of Abu Dhabi, which is all the retiring drivers eventually retire from the race, they DNF and something goes wrong. Now, I've never liked Seb much in his career, but that might actually get me close to tears. It'd be so sad. Toto's going to overspend next year, he said it, so he has to, yeah. But that's the thing, teams will overspend. It's such a soft penalty, teams will overspend. And I don't want to talk about this every year, but I think we're going to have to now. But anyway, guys, thank you so much. We've been going for nearly an hour and a half, so it's been a pretty solid stream. Thank you guys ever so much. Like I say, we'll be probably pushing out some short content over the next couple of days for a week or so. And then maybe a video or two as well. That's me just basically testing out shorts, see how well they perform. And if one pops off, then we will definitely keep doing them. So this year's results really relevant now, everything that came to light? I'd say so, because I don't think they'd have gained much for this year's car from an overspend. That's more. I think the biggest advantage would have come last year. I don't think they've taken a massive advantage into this year. Based on it. I mean, look, they're so much quicker now. That's not an extra like £400,000 in development for this year's car. You know, it's they're that far ahead. The day he won and celebrated with donuts in India, I subscribed. Lifetime Seb fanboyism. That's completely fair. I want to buy you all a pint. I'll take one. So if you want to donate to give me a pint, you know, we accept those. What's stopping them from doing the same thing? What? So stopping Mercedes and everyone else doing the same thing? Nothing really. There's not a massive penalty. Maybe not. They're freaking fast, Lewis. Yeah. Okay, right. So, yeah, I think that about rounds off the stream. So, guys, thank you ever so much. As ever, it's been brilliant to talk to you. If you're not already, then please do subscribe. It really does mean a lot. And, yeah, Lewis at the rocket ship. And, yeah, guys, until next time, like I say, we'll be pushing some, like, short content videos. So, there will be some stuff coming out. And if there is any breaking news, like penalties after qualifying or after the race or whatever, then we do go live for that as well. So, if that happens, see you then. But otherwise, see you guys in videos and in the comment section and so on until we are next back with some live streaming. So, guys, thank you ever so much. Hope you'll have a brilliant day and enjoy the weekend. I think it should be a pretty good one. In a bit, yep. See you soon. Lewis is great, though. He is, and I think he's definitely come back on form, hasn't he, a bit? See you next live. See you then. Bananas! There we go. That's a way to end the stream. Bananas. We're going to leave us with that philosophical comment. Bananas. And good.